and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. We are a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. I am Lori Merkin-McGee, and I serve this congregation as one of our commissioned lay ministers. I'm joined in welcoming you this morning by the Reverend Sunshine Wolf, who is a guest with us this morning. And now let us take a moment to breathe, to enter into this time of community once again, and to invite Spirit to be present among us as we explore what it means to be a beloved and interdependent community working for justice and liberation. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I offer greetings to my fellow Trekkies and Star Wars fans and Battlestar Galactica and all of the things. So say we all. May the Force be with you and also with you. Peace and long life. All right, friends. My name is Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. I serve as your congregational life staff field contact. It's kind of like, anybody who's not familiar with church structure, I'm kind of like a bishop, but with none of the power, because all the power is with you, right? But my job is to be in community and connection and supporting our congregations. I support congregations in all of Western Pennsylvania and then most of Ohio. And I know quite a lot of you from Summer Institute, which is another area of responsibility for me. So I was joking, I was like, I feel like I'm back at Summer Institute in Penn West and not, at another church. And I also do a lot of Safer Congregations work, particularly this year as we're preparing for the election and some of the challenges our churches are facing with that. I am a short, fat, white-passing, multiracial human. With brown hair, glasses. I'm wearing a white mask over a salt and pepper beard, purple button-down shirt, and a rainbow stole. I'm doing my level best to make sure I engage in the practice of descriptions for folks with visual impairment and disability. So thank you for engaging with me in that practice. Our opening words come from Star Trek, surprise. Church, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. Its lifelong mission to explore strange new worlds. They're all right here, right? To seek out new life and new civilizations and to boldly go where no one has gone before. May we go into this service boldly together.
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice to unite us in worship. It reminds us of our ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us. The chalice is also a light to guide us on our shared journey and a reminder that we are all interconnected in the great web of existence of which we are each a beloved part. As Heidi and Randy come up to light our shared chalice, I invite those on Zoom to light your home chalice. Will you please join me now in reading these words from Orlando Brugnola? Flame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now in this time. Yet in truth you burn always, in the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope and in the call to justice. Burn bright before us, burn bright within us.
I have a story for you this morning. It was written by Amanda Gorman, who is a beautiful, beautiful poet that we use in RE often, her work. And she has written this book called Change Sings, a Children's Anthem. I like to say that she wrote this to show connection from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and how that can build community. Change sings. I can hear change humming in its loudest, proudest song. I don't fear change coming, so I sing along. I scream with the skies of red and blue streamers, and I dream with the cries of tried and true dreamers. I am a chant that rises and rings. There is hope where my change sings. Though some don't understand it, those windmills of mysteries, I sing with all the planet and its hills of histories. I hum with 100 hearts, each of us lifting a hand. I use my strengths and my smarts, take a knee to make a stand. I'm bright as the light each day brings. There is love where my change sings. I show others tolerance, though it may take some courage. I don't make a taller fence, but build a better bridge. I talk not only of distances from where and how we came, I also walk our differences to show how we are the same. I am movement that roars and springs. There's a wave where my change sings. Change things where? There, inside of me, because I am the change I want to see. As I grow, it grows like seeds, and I am just what the world needs. I am the voice where freedom rings. You are the love your bright heart brings. We are the wave starting to spring, for we are the change that we sing. We are the world, what the world is becoming, and we know that it won't be long. We all hear the change strumming. Won't you sing along?
Morning, y'all. I'm that kind of minister who likes it when you react. Amen. So, interdependence is the theme for this month, and I was trying to think about how do we talk about the changing times that you as a congregation are living into, that we as a society are living into, in ways that are creative and that invite us to lean into that time of uncertainty. And I have to say that at this phase, post-quarantine during the pandemic, a lot of folks are like, I'm really kind of done with the whole change thing. Anybody in that boat? Right? Like, really? And yet, the reality is that we're always changing. Just sometimes it's more noticeable than others, right? Like somebody who has an infant will notice the changes day to day, and then suddenly, boom, they're 21, and they're like, what the heck happened to this kid? It's slow and over time. But the reality is that the changes that we're dealing with in society and globally and in our congregations is happening pretty quickly. And it can feel pretty unsettling. And for me, I find a lot of spiritual sustenance and guidance in science fiction. I grew up with that. My family, my parents absolutely love sci-fi. And I remember as a child, Star Trek, the original series, was on syndication. And so it was always on television. The Tribbles one was apparently quite popular. I saw that too many times. But, they would frequently be on TV. And don't get me wrong, there's always something challenging in television because so often it is unexamined or it comes from a particular time, right? So I want to be clear, misogyny and racism and ableism and all of those things are alive in that series just as any television or anything that we create, right? And it gave me this image and vision of a world where we thought ourselves as one humanity in all of its diversity and in all of its difference. And when I was in 6th grade, Star Trek The Next Generation started, and the season finale for Star Trek The Next Generation happened 2 weeks before my graduation from high school. And it had just kind of a developmental impact on how I thought about the world. And one of the pieces of language that always sits with me is Captain Picard, before the ship goes off into its next mission, always says, engage. Say that with me, engage. Engage, right? And the thing to know is the captain is the one who says, okay, now it's time for us to go forward. That couldn't happen without the literally 1,000 people on the ship being ready for that moment too. And when I think about our congregations and our communities, my question is, how do we get to that moment? What are all of the things that need to happen so that we can say, engage? It's not an easy thing to do. And in Unitarian Universalism, I think it can be really complicated because we don't require that you believe any one thing, right? Or think any one way. In fact, one of the jokes is ask 2 Unitarian Universalists their opinion and you'll get 10 opinions, right? So when there's so much difference, how do we get the moment of saying, we're going to go that way together? And there were times in the Star Trek series where they would say, we're going that way together, and not everybody agreed. But there were still processes in place by which the community moved forward, even if not everybody was completely on board, though they were physically on board. I ran right into that pun, I didn't mean to. But it didn't mean the conversation was done. They would still talk about, are we going this way, or those sorts of things. But we also didn't let disagreement stop momentum, right? And so what does it mean to be in community where we may not always agree, but we still want to keep momentum going forward? The thing for me about the Starship Enterprise, or any of them, the Starship Kent, whatever it is it's made of people of all kinds of roles and backgrounds, and we need all of those things interdependently connected in order to carry forward, to move forward, to engage in the next thing. I think of Priya Parker, who wrote the book, The Art of Gathering, and one of the things that she talks about is that our communities in their gathering need to be needs-focused. I think too often we're not needs-focused. we're ritual focused. And I don't mean like ritual in terms of we're going to put things in the water or light a chalice, but that it can almost become habitual church. We do the things that feel familiar, even if they may no longer be relevant to the needs of the future generations of the church. And so my question is always in that interdependence, how do we hold that which allows for a sense of familiarity in church for the people who need it, while also creating space for innovation, for things that allow folks of new generations to come in and say, I want to hold the mantle of this community, this congregation, to say we're going to go that way together in the ways that are meaningful to me, that meet my needs, that may not be the same as the needs of the people who have been in that church for 30 or 40 years. Does that make sense? And it's tricky. It means that we have to be open to uncertainty. It means that we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. How many of you like uncertainty? How many of you like being uncomfortable? Right? It asks us to do that. And yet, in that uncertainty, in that uncomfortable place, is where transformation happens. Now, we can't always live in that uncertainty, which means you should have places that are comforting and familiar. But the question is it going to be on Sunday? Is it going to be in a covenants or small group moment? Isn't it going to be in something that happens on Wednesday? We have one church in West Virginia that has completely let go of Sunday services. They only do justice ministry now. That's all they do. We have other congregations who they do worship 3 of the Sundays a month, and the other 1 or 2 are social action or community events or things like that that are allowing space to give the worship people a break, and they frequently need it, and allow to build community and to think about how they can do new things together. There's all kinds of creative, innovative things that were happening in church, but they are done because they are interdependent and they are part of the notion of collective relationship. The congregations that are doing some of the greatest work around countering oppression, whether that's countering white supremacy culture or countering misogyny or countering ableism or heterosexism or transphobia, they're doing it with this notion of curiosity and relationship, to expand that interdependent web beyond just the people who may always be there to other folks to consider needs and possibilities, and to know that it's about our collective liberation, that to engage in those practices and those thoughts that counter oppression are central to what it means to be interdependent and diverse and equitable. It's a core value. In the second part, I'm going to talk a little bit about like how we transform, but one piece I want to leave you is to think about what it means to do this work knowing that we don't always know how to do it well, and that we may do it imperfectly. Now, we're in a church community. How many of you who have been in this church a while like everybody in your church? There are a couple, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to like everybody to be in community together. In fact, that's one of the powers of sacred community. We do need to choose to be in community together, so that when it comes to that time to say engage and we're going to go in this direction, we're ready to do that together. But it also means that when we unintentionally engage in harm, so let's say Lori says something, I picked on Colleen earlier, so it's your turn this time, that if Colleen says something that causes harm to me, there are a couple of ways this could play out. I could say, Lori, what you said was harmful to me. And I have a sense of how you would respond, so I'm going to make it up. Okay. Path 1, she could be feeling guilt and shame and anger and be like, how dare you tell me that I caused you harm, because that wasn't my intention, that wasn't my goal. And that gets into hundreds of years of church that we've inherited that's focused on good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong. and in structures that are punitive, where if you make a mistake, then you're going to be punished. How many of you grew up with that if you make a social mistake, you're going to be punished? I certainly was in that camp. Instead, we want to think about other kinds of relationship building, and our covenant work and our relationship work is about restorative relationship, which asks the primary question, when harm is caused, how do we do our best to make things right again? Does that make sense? When harm is caused, what do we do to make things right again? And this comes from, we'll be hearing from the reading from Zur earlier, but Howard Zur talks about the importance of reparative leadership. That we lead our communities and we conduct ourselves with each other, not in the goal of punishing a person for causing harm or doing wrong, but with the goal of reparation, of repair, of creative justice, of transformative justice. So saying in this moment, Lori, that thing you said to me was harmful. And that actually could be a road to deeper relationship between us, where you learn something and I work through a process of forgiveness and we find a new way forward together. And if we do that again and again, over and over, we build a world of which we dream. So I invite you to hold on to that notion of the punitive justice, which is punishment, versus the relational relational justice, which, dare I say, might mean engagement. So this is an invitation for you to engage. Absolutely.
This is our spiritual home, where we learn to be human and how to deepen our relationship with the sacred. To do that, we create a time of shared silence for each of us to connect with what we hold to be of the ultimate meaning in life. Some of us pray, others reflect, while others meditate or offer gratitude in our hearts. Or we can simply be. The how does not matter. What does matter is that we are reminded of who we truly are, that we have a chance to reflect on life and in its wonder, and that we reconnect with the sacred mystery that is at the very heart of life itself. Let us enter the silence together. Each week we set aside time to reflect upon the personal. We may have sorrows, struggles, and losses that are breaking our hearts. We may have joys and celebrations that make our hearts sing. If you are on Zoom and have a joy or sorrow to share with us this morning, you are invited to now use the chat box. David Bond asks for prayers for his mom, whose mother died last Thursday. We offer you our deepest condolences. Heather shares both a joy and a sorrow. Aaron Eisenberg, who played the character Nog on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, was a dear family friend since childhood. Best friend of her sister, Jennifer Pritchard. Both were kidney transplant recipients who engaged in an amazing friendship that gave them faith in themselves and each other. Both are gone too soon and are deeply missed. We're thinking of you, Heather. Jennifer shares a sorrow and a concern about people of color who are disenfranchised by systemic racism. May we work for justice. Brittany shares gratitude for the people that she has found here who encourage her to find herself again. Evie shares a joy that she is graduating high school in about 30 days and then leaving for college in about 7 weeks. Congratulations to Evie. Trudy shares a joy that Hunter turns 10 this week. Happy birthday to Hunter. Marion shares a joy that Ike is going to the National History Bee in Orlando next month. Congratulations to Ike. He's also fundraising by selling cookies, so you might want to ask Marion about that. Adelicia shares prayers for my cousin that died in Utah. We offer you our deepest condolences. With gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of one another on life's journey, for the beauty of this world and this day of possibility, we raise our hearts in gladness with the word, Amen.
I invite you to first just kind of stretch or move, become aware of your own bodies. And I invite you into a time of prayer, meditation, or contemplation according to your own personal practice, and entering into a time of silence, which is a time of silence within, for we cannot control the sounds of the world. So let each sound that you hear become a part of your own internal silence and witness. We hold our hearts, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits open to a world in conflict and in multiple wars, into a time where our own security and safety and those of those we love and those far away are constantly in threat. For all who have been lost and who have been harmed because of political vengeance, control, and power. And for all of those who have lost their lives or struggle to this day because of systemic violence, systemic power, and systemic control. We offer our blessings and our witness, and we commit ourselves to continually engage and do more to help heal the world of which we are a part, knowing that it will not happen in our lifetimes, that each little thing we do matters. We hold in our hearts, our minds, our spirits, and our bodies all those in times of loss and grief, of uncertainty and fear, of sorrow and disconnection. May they be held in loving grace. May you be held in loving grace. May this community be a space where connection and witness help embolden people, let them feel strong. We hold in our minds, our hearts, our bodies, and our spirits all those for whom we have said things that are ill or ill-informed, when we have gossiped in front of the stranger, letting them know that they are not welcome here, for when they are away, we may speak ill of them. May we hold our tongues. May we let go of that connection that disconnects, knowing that how we speak of one another matters as much as how we are together. May we hold in this day, aside all of these challenges and all of these struggles, the great wonder and wholeness and holiness amidst all brokenness that allows us to say yes to life and to each other, knowing that our presence and the grace of the world, the beauty of flowers and trees and the sun, the laughter of a child, the witness of art and music and culture abound. May we embrace curiosity over knowingness, creativity over surety, and may we know that we are more than enough to do the next little thing that helps build the world of which we dream. Let our resilience define our days, knowing that we are not alone. In all of these things and so many that cannot be unsaid, we offer our gratitude, our witness, and our blessing. May it be so. Amen.
During the years I have been involved in this work, many people have commented that restorative justice is in fact a way of life. At first I was mystified. How can an approach designed initially to respond to crime become a life philosophy? I have concluded that it has to do with the ethical system that restorative justice embodies. The Western criminal justice system is intended to promote important positive values, a recognition of the rights of others, the importance of certain boundaries on behavior, the centrality of human rights. But it does so in a way that is largely negative. It says that if you harm others, we will harm you. As James Gilligan has argued, it is a mirror image of the offending act. Consequently, to make it humane, we have to bring in other values to govern and mitigate it. It does not, in itself, offer us a vision of the good. Restorative justice, on the other hand, provides an inherently positive value system, a vision of how we can live together in a life-giving way. It is based on the assumption, a reminder for those of us living in an individualistic world, that we are interconnected. It reminds us that we live in relationship, that our actions impact others, that when those actions are harmful, we have responsibilities. As I noted earlier, restorative justice must be grounded in values. Many values can and have been articulated, but I like to focus on the 3 R values: respect, responsibility, and relationship. The last one is foundational. It reminds us of a basic reality, one that is understood clearly in the most religious and cultural traditions. It is also a foundational aspect of human nature. As Daniel Goldman has pointed out, neuroscience is finding that we as human beings are wired to connect with others. Our reflection hymn is From You I Receive, and Sunshine is going to teach us some movements for that. Would you please rise?
All right, so I'm going to do one of those things that I can get away with because I'm not from around here, which is make you do something. What am I saying? I can't make a you do anything. I invite you to participate in this, and the introverts are going to be like, really, you want me to do this relational thing? Just remember, it will be over in about 2 minutes. So we're going to sing From You I Receive, To You I Give, and if you don't know the words off the top of your head, don't worry about singing. Focus on the actions. And what you're going to do, stick with me here, you're going to find someone else in the room, and you will do the actions in the song, and then we're going to pause, and you're going to find someone else, and do them again, and then you're going to find someone else. And my only rule is you cannot do this with somebody you live with. See how I did that? I split up the people. Yeah.
Brad, and you got Mary.
So it goes like this. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Here are a couple of pro tips. If somebody says, before we get into it, so it's going to be from you I receive, do that. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share. You can take the person's hands, but if you're sick or uncomfortable touching someone, you can say, together we share, and that means that person does not want you to take their hands, okay? We always want to give people choice. So together we share, and then from this we live, and you'll just do a little bow. You got it? So let's find a partner, and we'll do it through once. And you may need to do a trio, and that's okay. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. Receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Okay, find a new partner. All right. From you I receive, to you I give. Now this time you're going to find a partner and you're just going to do the actions. You're not going to sing when it's time. So find another partner. And then you're just doing the actions. All right, here we go. I receive to you what I give. Together we share and from. Thank you. Well done. And you may be like, but that wasn't very reflective. I know, y'all. It's okay. There's a purpose to that practice, though, which is, one, to get out of your comfort zone. You're not used to moving around so much on Sunday, I'm thinking. Is that right? Right? And it means practicing connection and engagement, particularly with folks you may not always see during the week. Right? And the reason why it's important to practice is because if this felt awkward and uncomfortable, what does it mean to do this engagement work when something is really challenging or difficult? It's better to practice it now and to recognize that feeling of discomfort, resistance, whatever. Maybe you were like, this was amazing and awesome and I loved it, whatever it was. But to think about and reflect, how did you experience this time? And what does that tell you about engaging in times of connection that are maybe more difficult or uncertain or with total strangers? Yeah? We need opportunities to practice things that have very low risk but high engagement. So I invite you and encourage you to engage in those kinds of practices. Music is a fun way to do it. Movement is a fun way to do it, right? And if you messed up, then you don't have to talk to that person again about it if you don't want to. It's okay. Or you can chat with them later. Be like, that was a little weird, or whatever it is. But we have to practice. And restorative justice practice, as Zur points out, a lot of folks are perceiving it as a way of life, and I think in many ways, Unitarian Universalists, we've already kind of been doing that. Congregations call me and say, we're having this huge conflict. My very first question is, do you have a covenant? Do you have a covenant in this congregation? Is it easy to find? Right? Do you have a right relationship team in this congregation? Do you know how to reach out to them if you need to? Has there been explanations about if you have a conflict, so if I have a conflict with Lori, do I know what the next elegant action is? You're the chair of the committee? So, and it's interesting because in another congregation, the chair of committee got in conflict with someone in the congregation, and they called the region to facilitate it because it was a conflict of interest, right? For folks who are not from this congregation or don't know anything about what I just said, covenant are the promises that we make to each other about how we will choose to be in relationship. And they are inherently restorative-minded. Lots of folks respond to covenant as a, if you break this, you're going to be punished mindset, because that's what we've inherited for centuries. It is certainly the way of Unitarian Universalism for a long time, both in the Unitarian and the Universalist Church. And it is certainly the way of our society, right? And yet, what we know is for deep relationship to work, we can't be punitive about it. And so the idea behind covenant is to say, if I promise that if I have a conflict with you, that I'm not going to go and have a side conversation with someone about you, I'm instead going to try to talk to you first, that's a promise that's made. Now, if I come from a culture where that's not the norm, like from the South or from the Middle East, I may go to the right relationship team and say, direct communication is not my cultural style, help me here. And then we find a different way to go forward, right? It's always relational. It's always adaptable to the needs of the people and the communities of which we are a part. And it is always about relationship and repairing harm. And right relationship teams are people who are trained to help us have those difficult conversations. And then sometimes we have behaviors that are so egregious that we may say, this isn't working. You're not doing the things to help build the relationship. We need you to take a break for a while. These are the things that need to happen to come back. It isn't like we will tolerate any and every behavior, but it's always about the relationship first, not the punishment. Does that make sense? It is a way of life and a way of thinking. And it matters to talk about it because we have to have the base understanding of the relationship first in the engagement as foundational so that if we ever need to engage in a process of conflict transformation work or imagining ways going forward that are going to be uncomfortable and uncertain, we have to have that as the base framework. We've seen in a lot of congregations that are doing eighth principle work that someone will say, well, something you just said is a racist way of saying it. And if the person is in a punitive mindset, they'll be like, how dare you call me a racist, right? But if somebody is in that relational mindset, they say, ooh, that was not what I wanted from that encounter. Help me understand what I said so that I can not make that mistake again, right? It's relational. It's accepting the experience of the person in front of you and being willing to transform that into something new. To bring it back to Star Trek. Remember Star Trek? If we're on this mission together as a community with lots of different ways of doing church and lots of different needs, and we all have different expectations, our way we choose to be in relationship with each other is central because we don't all believe the same, we don't all love the same, we don't all think the same. And that is central to how we, as UUs, value community. And it is very counter to some of the conservative narratives out there, right? Very counter. There's a reason why some of our churches are being targeted by fascist groups and white supremacist groups and those sorts of things. Because we dare to say that we don't all have to believe and think the same to be in community. And that can be a threat to that value. But it doesn't mean it's easy. And it does mean that if we're going to survive as a religion with a certain kind of voice and wisdom that matters to the future of our society, not just our churches, then we have to be willing to practice that interdependent connection, that collective liberation, that collective and collaborative ministry that says all of us have wisdom. Do we have any micromanagement type people in the room? It depends on what it is. Sometimes I'm like, I want it to be done my way. That is one of those bridges that can kind of cut things off, particularly for new people coming in with new ideas. And so we have to be willing to imagine that if the ship is going to go forward, that it may not be done the way you like, right? And you may be like, we know this doesn't work, but the new generation of people coming into the pews may need to experience that not working, or maybe because they're doing it and thinking about it differently, it will work this time. But letting that space happen. That the vision of the whole ship of the UUCK, is that we allow for creativity and innovation and difference, knowing that it will lead to opportunities for conflict transformation and spiritual growth. But then when we have that moment where we all together say, engage, right? Do that, engage. That we know we will get there together and something weird and wacky will happen, as always happened in the Star Trek stories. Don't know what it's going to be, but it will be weird and wacky. I want to close with a final thought from Tim Minchin. Anybody know Tim Minchin? He's an Australian comedian. He writes music that is just fabulous. He has a Christmas song he's an atheist, so he has a Christmas song about drinking white wine in the sun. Because in Australia, you drink white wine in the sun, it's summer. For a graduation speech where he was given an honorary PhD at his alma mater in Australia, he encouraged the people in the community to be what he calls micro-ambitious, right? You, or the community here, may have a vision of what you want your church to be 5, 10, 20 years from now. Maybe you don't. But one of the things he said is if you focus too far in the future on a very particular goal, you will miss the shiny thing that's immediate, that leads to a whole new imagined path going forward. And so when we're thinking about this like engage moment, you'll notice that unless you're Voyager trying to get back home, which I know we did the Voyager song, but if, unless you're trying that, Voyager was lost and trying to get back to Earth, and it was going to take them 75 years. But all the other ships, they did the next thing. And then they did the next thing. And then they did the next thing. And each of those things changed the entire crew, the entire community, and even the entire vision of what the Federation and all of the different groups would do going on in the future. That it was those next little actions. And I remember I mentioned the next elegant action, that's Adrienne Marie Brown, African-American woman and systems theorist and philosopher who reminds us that if we focus on the organic nature of things and don't hardcore plan everything, something beyond our imagining is possible. I want you to look around the room at your community here. These are the folks by which you make the miraculous possible. Not huge miraculous, but little moments of miraculousness and connection and engagement. May you go forward on this day and all the days to come, imagining something new and innovative, creative, connected, collaborative, and wildly, wildly out there. And may you all say together, engage.
Our spiritual community thrives in its shared life of worship, community, and ministry as each of us participates in the circle of giving and receiving. This is possible due to your generous gifts of money, time, and care for each other and the recognition that we are all connected. To help others in the community thrive, we also give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. April's special offering is for the Indigenous Environmental Network. Established in 1990 within the United States, IEN was formed by grassroots Indigenous peoples and individuals to address environmental and economic justice issues. IEN's activities include building the capacity of Indigenous communities and tribal governments to develop mechanisms to protect our sacred sites, land, water, air, natural resources, health of both our people and all living things, and to build economically sustainable communities. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another and this community and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond. Will the ushers please come forward?
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
As we bring our service to a close, it is time to extinguish the chalice. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to read the words with me, which many of you I know have memorized. We've made a slight change, so read carefully. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing hymn is Building a New Way. Will you please rise and join in singing?
We are built a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, it is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom, it is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, our world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
I invite you to stay arisen and face across the aisles towards each other or behind and give a wave to the folks on the camera. Wherever you like. Sometimes when you say engage, it goes a whole bunch of ways. All right, look across the aisle towards one another. This is your sacred community. Those online and those here in this room. It is by these people that you set your direction, that you build connection, and that you say together, yes. So I invite you to say yes to the people across the aisles. Yes. And one more time. Yes. And finally, yes. Go forward, cause trouble and comfort in equal measure, and may you know you are held until you return again. Blessed be.